Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie Pell, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Matt Miller, Paul Sweeney live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. We're also streaming live on YouTube. So head over to youtube.com and search Bloomberg Radio. We are joined for the rest of this hour, Barry Ritholtz, founder of Ritholtz Wealth Management.
Can I just interject a question? Because I have a listener writing in who loves Masters in Business and said he thought the Michael Lewis interview that you did recently was fantastic. He wants to know if you have a take on how much time SBF is going to get.
I don't have a clue, but this weekend's interview is Business Week's Zeke Fox, whose book Number Go Up is like the other side of the story. Where if Lewis is telling the SBF fly on the wall, Zeke just does this deep dive into all the things that have gone wrong in crypto. There's some legitimate uses for crypto and a whole lot of scams that he identifies and talks about. Absolutely fascinating. I haven't been paying attention to the trial like you don't want to waste an hour of your life listening to Jerome Powell. I can't waste days of my life watching a trial and then the appeal, and then the books were entertaining. The trial is tedious and boring.
Well, sure. Well, it's not televised. I think if they had cameras in there and it were televised,
there are updates all the time. It just doesn't.
There's some other trials coming up I'd like to see.
Which one do you?
Oh, there's some folks that are facing some legal problems. Be interesting. All right, let's stay on this.
I'll tell you what. Well, Jen Rhee was in here yesterday. She said she's flying up to Boston today.
That's what we do at Bloomberg Intelligence.
For which trial?
Spirit. Yeah. Well, it's a JetBlue Spirit thing.
Yep. Let's kind of continue that legal thing. Our next guest, Nouvelle Gonzalo, founder, Gonzalo Law Group. She joins us live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio.
Where'd she get her JD?
The
Ohio State University.
That's right. The Ohio State University in conjunction with Oxford University in England.
Oh,
so
nice.
the two,
Awesome.
But yes,
I feel like
Ohio
those
State
two are on the same level as well. OSU
They're
and Oxford.
excellent. They're both excellent universities.
Exactly. All right,
one has a better football team.
One has a better football team, depending upon how you define football.
That's right.
All right. Let's talk about Meta first, because
Yes.
they have been sued by California and 47 other states. Talk about harmful youth marketing. What's going on? I mean, the stock, nobody cares in the stock. Stock's up 155%. From a legal perspective, is there anything there?
Oh my gracious, this is huge. This is an amazing case because you were looking at over 43 attorney generals from different states that are bringing this case against Meta. And we're talking about a platform that owns Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp. There's about 4 billion users worldwide. What's that?
Threads.
Okay.
That's their new Twitter competitor, right? Threads.
Yes. So, this is huge. And we have not seen this type of bipartisan support with 43, states going against them. But essentially what the issue is here, this is not only data privacy law, but this is data privacy law in children. Because essentially what the states are arguing is that, hey, you are intentionally harming children with how you're handling your platforms, the features that you're putting in place. And there were internal memos that were leaked from Meta into the public marketplace. And we found out that Meta was aware of the harm that some of its features cause to children. And so now the states are in an uprising over this. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're watching with this case and watching the impact with it. And essentially some of the main concerns, because you might say, okay, well, look, listen, isn't this just business as usual? Companies want to have platforms that their users want to be on. They want to make it user friendly. They want people to be engaging with it. So how is this that different? But the concern here is not just that, okay, we have an engaging platform, people are using it. But the concern here is that they have a platform that is specifically geared toward and working to psychologically hook kids. And so we say, okay, well, what features are that? I mean, isn't it just kids, online socializing with one another? But actually we see the comparison-like feature, the filters they say are promoting body dysmorphia and eating disorders. They're, saying, oh, did you have that?
No, I have none of that. What I'm fascinated by, look, there's a ton of studies that show us that social media is in general toxic, but it's especially toxic to children, but so are lots and lots of other things. Hey, if our product is bad for you,
right?
Well, but isn't this something parents are supposed to regulate with their kids' screen time?
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
And to me, the bigger concern with Meta, I still call it Facebook, is they and Google just dominate online advertising. it seems like there's a little bit of an antitrust question. How are two companies driving, the vast majority of ads online? It seems there should be some competition in
It
that
does
space.
seem, I was going to
Amazon.
ask you, Novell, is this kind of a way in for prosecutors who have concerns about monopolistic behaviors, but just can't seem to bust them on that? Kind of like, when they were going after Al Capone, they wanted to get him for organized crime, and they actually ended up getting him on tax evasion.
Always taxes, right?
So I just wonder if they're trying to, is this a way for them to go in a back door and maybe kind of break up or minimize a little bit the power of someone like Meta?
I'd say that it's possible, but it's not likely. And that's because they're not asking them to break up their companies. They're asking them to regulate how they're obtaining information on the users and to really comply with data privacy laws. And so that's a different question that we're asking. And so when we're saying, okay, you're doing psychological research on how to make sure things are engaging for children, how to make sure that you're hooking them, you have research that shows it's harming them. But then you say, hey, we're not doing anything wrong. What's the problem here? This is very similar to what we saw with tobacco companies, what we saw with big pharma. And so we have to look at this really closely. It's not just a matter of, okay, right, parents need to regulate what the students are doing, what the kids are doing. But if you have the information, you know what to regulate.
So you lived in Europe for a long time.
Yes.
Europeans seem to take the right to privacy laws much more seriously than we do in the United States.
Yes.
Wouldn't those sort of things that say it's my data and I can control it, and Facebook, or for that matter, Apple, Google, Amazon, can't be selling and reselling, isn't that the choke point to generate some control over not only how these companies affect us, but specifically what we allow them to do with our minor children's data?
Barry, that is an excellent question, and I couldn't agree more. What we're seeing in the United States is we take a lot of our privacy laws from the European model with the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR. And so we're taking our laws a lot from that, or kind of adopting our own set.
But not as strict. We seem to be much looser than the Europeans.
We're by state. So we'll see, each state has their own sets of regulations, California, Illinois, and so forth. But we are looking at how they do things. And the reality is, yes, we have those regulations. Yes, we have it to protect, but if they're not being followed, then that's the problem. And that's what's being alleged here, that they're violating some of the children's data protection laws. Okay. And so and I will tell you, if they violated either the children's data protection privacy laws, or even any of our state ones, they absolutely most likely violated the global ones, because anytime you have a user from the EU, any part of Europe, the GDPR comes into effect. So I will tell you, it's most likely also that the EU regulators are watching this case very closely, because if they are in fact found to be in violation of privacy laws, consumer protection laws, then we're also going to see probably some issues abroad as well.
What are the damages? If Meta loses the case, what sort of options are going to take place? Is this going to be them writing a big check, or are they going to have to change how they do business?
I think we'll see a variety of things. One of the things that ended up coming up is they were getting ready to launch Instagram Kids. And so Instagram Kids was a platform.
That's awful.
A platform for children aged 13 and under. Wow. And so you're talking about some of the most vulnerable parts of our population. Children's minds are not even developed yet. And so they did this, and they were in works with it. Another memo was leaked. And when that was found out, over 40 US states went ahead and wrote Mark Zuckerberg and said, listen, please stop it. Don't do it. Don't move forward with it. And they did. They paused it. So we might see injunctions here. So a pause on work that they're doing, or projects that are in the works. We might see a change in the platform modification. We'll probably see some more disclosures, because you can't protect what you don't know is out there or happening to your child. So if you think, oh, what's the harm in letting them, have their comparison-like future or put their filters on? But if you don't know that there's research that this harms your child and there's an intent or a problem, you can't regulate it. So you'll see disclosures.
All right, Novell, thank you so much for joining us. Novell Gonzalo, founder of Gonzalo Law Group, bringing us up to date on some of the legal challenges out there for Meta, as anybody, in this case, the state, trying to get a handle on some of the content that's being consumed out there, particularly by kids.